Monday, day 22, just gone 6:30. It's weird, isn't it, how we kind of like put these markers at certain times, and they're just arbitrary, aren't they, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, off we go again, another week. Hello, well, it's lunchtime, and I just sort of had a quick look on my phone at the news, only to find out that there's been this kind of major Amazon server outage, and it's something that I kind of referenced last week in the video where I was talking about people's online identities being so interwoven with, like, fundamentally who they are. Come on to that in just a second, but it's interesting, isn't it? Our generation, my generation, people in their sort of 40s and 50s, we grew up without any of this online stuff, and then, you know, we had our childhoods with it, and then phones came in, and smartphones and stuff. So we've had, you know, we've been in a weird generation where we've seen an awful lot of change, and I'm sure generations, my generation particularly, are kind of worried about this stuff. We've gone from through a massive shift, and we don't know whether this was something that was malicious, or whether the server just fell down, but it impacted lots of social media outlets, which, you know, for the most part, for most of us, isn't a big problem. But, you know, banking and trains and things like that, much more concerning. So it got me thinking, before I start talking about kind of the identity side of things that I was mentioning last week, I was thinking more about, I wonder if there'll be a bit of a shift towards brands and companies that we involve ourselves, maybe bank accounts and things like that, saying who their servers and all of their security is by, and whether there'll be an ethical consideration, a bit like investments and kind of pensions and stuff, where you can kind of opt out of your money being invested in kind of pharmaceuticals and armaments and defense contracts and stuff like that. I wonder if there'll be a bit of a shift perhaps towards things like that. Maybe banks kind of saying, look, we have our own servers, you know, we're kind of protected by this kind of stuff. So that's one thing I was thinking about. And also the fact that there's very little we can do about it, isn't there? On a day-to-day, it's hard to sort of protect yourself really without becoming some kind of crazy prepper. Maybe they're not crazy. I know there's these rumours about all of the tech giants building bunkers and stuff like that. But there's very little the likes of us can do really about that day-to-day stuff. But it did get me thinking about what I was talking about last week, that if all of your identity is kind of wrapped up in some sort of online existence, today kind of just shows how fragile that is. That if the skills and knowledge that you profess to have online kind of go in a puff of server dust, then you really are left with absolutely nothing. And it's something I want to sit down at some point and make some notes on. I want to put it in my journal really and talk about these things that are fundamentally mine. And, you know, if it all went to pot, let's say, for example, the banking system went to pot, or I couldn't get into work because of travel or something, what am I ultimately left with? Who am I? What are those skills that I'd have to rely on if everything went? The job went, or the house went, or something like that. What are those core skills? And I think these challenges, as we said before, these chosen challenges can help set you up a little bit to survive those things. Anyway, what bonkers day for some people. Really harrowing, really stressful, I'd imagine, for an awful lot of people working in the industries in the world where this stuff is just absolutely colossally important. And, you know, and then there's the knock-ons, people that can't withdraw money or pay bills and things like that. So seemingly, it seems that I've been relatively unscathed by this, but remains to be seen. It will happen more. And just to finish up this video today, I've just got home, and on the way home I discovered that, get this, if this doesn't freak you out, about a third of the internet is served by Amazon servers, and apparently 50% of the top 10,000 websites in the world are hosted by Amazon. So there you go, not a least bit of a monopoly really on our internet. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm saying with this video. It's just something that struck me as being kind of like, yeah, we gotta think about you know, the infrastructure and stuff like that that's run via the internet, haven't we, in terms of travel and police and communications and all the rest of it. Anyway, I don't really know what we're supposed to do about it, other than, well, probably be quite terrified. I don't know. Anyway, goodbye.